Welcome back to the AnyVoices podcast. I am joined by a wonderful lady today who really very interesting. I think she's pretty cool. Fadra. Fadra, welcome to the AnyVoices podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love doing podcasts. It's fun.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't involved in one some way or another. I have to have this outlet where it's unscripted after doing so many things in my life that are scripted.
I was going to say you would be talking to yourself if you didn't have a podcast. So this is probably a good, healthy outlet.
Right. It is. I frequently do talk to myself. I feel like we understand each other on that.
Yes,
one.
we do. We do.
So you've got a lot of cool things going on. I mean, you are a voiceover talent. So
yes.
Kind of tell us a little bit about how that got started, how you got into that line.
Well, it started many decades ago. In that actually growing up, I always wanted to be an actress. I seriously wanted to be an actress or an astronaut. I couldn't really decide.
Mhm.
And oddly enough, when I went to college, I majored in biology, minored in chemistry and theater.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been waiting for the chemical theater industry to emerge. It hasn't happened yet.
Really hasn't taken off yet.
It hasn't. So I've always had that right brain, left brain struggle. So I'm giving you my life story in about 30 seconds. So I worked in technology for quite a while. Actually, I was in teaching. I worked in technology. I went from technology to the marketing side of things in technology. And that's where I really tapped into the creative side of things. And then from there, I moved into the blogging world where I really found my outlet with writing.
Yep.
And then found that what goes along with blogging is vlogging. So I started on YouTube. And that's when I discovered a way to embrace that inner actress that was dying to come out. And
I completely, I'm there with you. I mean, very similar things have happened in my background. So I definitely get you. And honestly, I think that it helps, right? Like having all that knowledge, having all that, base, like it gives you a lot of depth to reach into. So, but I feel like you're not done. I feel like is there more?
Well, so let me do the final link to voice acting. So, I've been blogging for about 10 years, little over 10 years. And a lot of people that got into blogging when I did, they've all sort of like evolved into some other sort of career, whether they're working behind the scenes, doing agency work or working with, they're now called influencers. And then I actually came across a fellow blogger who was talking about doing voiceover and doing audiobooks. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've always wanted to do audiobooks. I mean, I'm obsessed with listening to audiobooks. And so my thought was, I would love to do that. Also, anytime I go anywhere, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, whether I'm at the grocery store or I'm at Disney World, I'm always imitating that voice, the voice that you hear, whether it's, please, for the safety of all customers, please stand 6 feet apart. Or, there's a ride at Disney called The Land. And every time we go into that ride, I'm going, in farmlands across America. I'm like, I just love the whole voiceover thing. And so I was like, this sounds really fun. How did you do it? So she told me how she got involved. And I was like, as I am with most things, that sounds great, but maybe I'll get to it someday. And last year I decided was my year of yes. I was just going to do it. I was going to make the investment in myself and do it. And so I started officially with voiceover training about a year ago, and I've been booking jobs since August.
Good for you.
That's great. It's interesting because, I think there are a lot of people that are like, well, I've been an accountant my whole life, but people told me I have a really good voice. And they may have a good voice, but I think sometimes those people are at a bit of a disadvantage because in voiceover, and I tell people it's about performance, it's about presence, and it's about marketing yourself. And all of those things I've been able to do working in what I call the new media space. So it's been a good evolution for me.
Yeah, it really is, like I said, having all that background, having all that, depth really, as a person, and putting into these characters that you're reading, whether it's, an audio book or whether, it's an animated. I mean, I've done, voices for children's books and, like you, I basically learned how to do what I do by emulating people and, Thankfully, these days I'm more and more able to, be myself and use my own voice. But yeah, for the first probably 10 years, all I did was, other voices for just about everything that I actually got paid for. Um, so you've got your voiceover site is Fadra Nally, so FADRANALLY.com. Hope I'm saying your name right.
Bonus points for pronouncing everything 100% correct.
Nice. So that's your voiceover site, but you've got a cool site that I found first, and it was allthingsfadra.com.
Yes.
And it literally is all things. I mean, you've got, let's see, lifestyle, cars, travel, entertainment, family, opinion, and really cool stuff.
Yes.
I hope I didn't miss anything.
There are subcategories, but we don't have to go into those.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's all things. It's all things. Honestly, when I started, it was like, when I started my blog, I didn't even really understand what blogs were.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually looking to create a writing portfolio to get another job in marketing. And I thought, well, the only writing samples I have are boring corporate PowerPoints. So I wanted a place to do some real writing. And so I started, and I'll tell you, the first time you get your first comment and you realize somebody out there read my stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a bit intoxicating. And of course, we now know social media is kind of predicated on that now. Like, I want a response from people. But in the early days of blogging, you just kind of put it out there. And when people reacted and responded to it, it really, was something that I fell in love with. So I continued to write. And then I did try to create a bit more of a focus. I like to say that I focus on cars, travel, and entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the only thing I focus on. But if I had to pick three major categories, those are the ones.
So those are the main thoroughfares, and then you'll take an exit here and there.
Absolutely. I take many exits. Yes.
And you've definitely, I mean, some of your videos, I was looking at one of your videos and I think it had 199,000 views. I don't know if that was the highest one, but obviously maybe not all of them getting that many views, but it's pretty cool that you've been able to tap into the right keywords or topic or right timing.
So that one, the one that you're referring to, was the Ford Bronco. I really got super lucky with that one. That's a brand new vehicle coming out from Ford, and it's a hot vehicle, right? In the car space. I mean, non-car people are excited about it too, but in the car space, people were really excited. So I had the opportunity to go and preview it. And, in the time of COVID, things are very different. Normally they would invite automotive journalists out to see it at some fancy location. They weren't doing that last summer because of COVID. So they had it at in Washington, D.C., near where I live, and they invited some of us to come out and take a look at it. And I said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do a video about it, and I'm going to get it up as soon as I get home. So I did a video. I came home. I stayed up late editing it. I hit publish, and it just took off because people were hungry for information. So I got really lucky with that one. They're not all like that. I wish they were. But it's kind of fun. I was actually on the local news talking about doing YouTube.
That's great.
It was a local reporter that was watching one of my car videos and went, wait a minute, I recognize that location. And so he contacted me and said, I'd love to do a story about, YouTube stars. And he had star. I use that term loosely. Star. I'm on YouTube. And so he contacted a family that does very different kind of YouTube, very polished. Their whole house is set up like a movie studio.
Right.
For me, it's me and a camera and a tripod, and I'm a one-woman show. But we talked about it, how you don't have to be, a 17-year-old skateboarder or whatever to make your mark on YouTube. There's a niche for whatever it is that you do. And same is true with voiceover. There, the niche is really important. There's a niche for what you do. And if you're producing good content with good audio, that's actually very important in
Definitely
video.
Is. I agree.
If you're producing good content and you're optimizing that content, you'll find an audience. And so, I found an audience, and for me, it is just another stream of income for me. Can I retire from my YouTube earnings? No. Not yet. You know,
Not yet,
couple
not yet.
couple more Ford Broncos maybe. But it's, that's the thing about being in this space and, being alive in this time, that it's really a gig economy. So I can still be a blogger and a YouTuber
Right.
and a voice actor and a writer, and all these pieces add up to help me earn a living.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I mean, I remember, gosh, the first time I got into blogging, it was a guy who was trying to beat out MySpace at what they were doing. So it was literally
You're
coming up at
showing your
about the same
age.
time. I am. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I joined up, and kind of like you're saying, I just was writing random things. I literally, it was called the Odd Blog, and I won't tell you the site that it was on because it definitely was questionable other content on there as well. But it was just a kind of a great community that arose out of there. And
Yeah.
I was blogging, and then in radio, I was a producer for a morning show, and they were like, yeah, like the company wants us to do this thing called blogging. And I was like, oh yeah, I blog. And they were like, wait, you do? You know what is blogging? And I'm like, well, it started off as a web log, which is, a log of your day, basically,
Right.
whatever you want it to
Right.
be. And it just got cut down to blogging. And they were like, I don't even know what you're saying. And so
You became
at
the
that
expert in
moment,
the room.
at that moment, yeah, I became the official blogger for the radio station and
Yeah.
taught the other people how to do it. So, but it ended up being, one of those things that was wonderful in so many ways, because it focused what I was writing about, right? Like it wasn't just me writing some dark short story that that
Right.
just hit me spur of the moment. And so that kind of content that I had to produce day after day after day, it kind of got easier. It allowed me to really do a lot more and a lot better kind of copywriting for commercials and productions that I was doing. And so I've actually been making YouTube videos for a long time. It's funny that the most watched video that I have, I'm actually showing how to take a phone apart and put it back together. And it's a 20-second video, because it's literally that easy to pop these pieces off this phone and put it
Right.
back together. And people go, how do I take this part off the phone? And so they go to Google and they search it, and my video comes up, and it's not even on any one of my main channels. I've never tweeted about this ever. I put this
How many
video out.
views?
It's right now it's over 7,000 and growing. So
Wow.
I get like 100 hits on it a week, because it was for a dozen people I made this video, and I just happened to go in later and I was like, oh, I'm playing around with keywords. How do you make keywords on YouTube? And so I went out to that channel and popped up that video, and I started typing in the keywords and hit save. And 2 weeks later, I was like 1,000 hits and growing. And so over the past year and a half, 2 years, it's just this steady, and there's nothing there. So it's just interesting that.
I mean, YouTube, you have to remember, I'm not lecturing you. I sound like I'm lecturing you. But you have to remember that YouTube is basically a search engine. I mean,
Right.
a lot of people go there for entertainment content, and I said I do a lot of cars, travel, entertainment on my YouTube channel. But I've done beauty treatments, and those things I don't want to be a beauty YouTuber, but for the over 40 woman, if I tell it like it is, and it's become very popular, some of the videos that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a company approach me and said, we really want you to do a video about replacing your water filter in your refrigerator. Now, that doesn't really fit into cars, travel, or entertainment,
That's
but
useful.
it's useful, and I knew that I could get traffic from SEO. So I made it, and it is one that is growing, 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 growing. And I have affiliate links in that too. Hey, you want to buy a water filter? Here's a link to
Just
buy it.
click right
So
here to buy the water filter. Yeah. I wonder if
yes.
my wife has actually watched your video. She really kind of got into makeup, was one of those people who would just be like, swipe, swipe, swipe,
Yeah.
lips done. And then she hit about 40. I don't want to give up her age.
You don't have to out her.
Yeah, we celebrate the anniversary of her 29th birthday.
I can
And
appreciate that.
and so she started really kind of getting into it and really
Yeah.
watching a lot of it. I wonder if she's watched yours. If not, I'm going to send her the link and have her watch that, because she appreciates the over 40 makeup videos. I'll just say.
Yes. 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 It is a different crowd. We have different skin and different needs.
Yes, absolutely. And it's wonderful. Well, so it's Fadraful. Is that what you call your?
Yeah. Well, that's the name that I gave it years ago
Hmm.
when it wasn't associated with anything. But you can find it by going to youtube.com/, all things Phaedra.
Oh, there you go.
All things
Nice.
Phaedra.
All things Phaedra. That's
Yeah.
really, it all comes back to that. It all comes back to Phaedra. Well,
Just, yeah, it's all things.
I once this is all over and I'm back in DC, because I do actually go to DC a couple of times a year. I'll have to look you up, and maybe I can hold another camera so you can you know do a car video that has multiple angles.
I would love some assistance.
Well, that's definitely, I can do that, and hopefully we'll get you more traffic, and get you more views, help your SEO, and maybe have some more promoted items that you're doing, whether it's more filters for refrigerators, or how to clean your stove. I don't know, but
Yeah, I don't really want that, but if it pays the bills, I'll hawk it.
there
It's
you go.
fine.
Yeah, it's amazing what we'll do just for a
Yes.
paycheck sometimes.
You know what though? So let's talk about voice acting compared to blogging and YouTube
Sure.
stuff, because one of the things that I love, that was so refreshing for me going from the social media world and going into voice acting, is that in the social media world, it's how many viewers do you have, how many followers do you have, what's your engagement rate.
Hmm.
And with voice acting, typically that's not a factor. It's what's your talent. And I can really appreciate that. The other thing is, in what we're calling the influencer space these days, and someone, like, I just posted something on my Instagram about a dry shampoo, right? I
Right.
told you the beauty stuff, dry shampoo. And you know, the expectation is if they send it to me, I'm going to post about it, but I don't want to post about it unless it's a dry shampoo that I actually think is pretty decent,
Right.
you
It's
know?
usable and useful, and yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my word means something. And in voice acting, you're a hired voice.
Yeah. I've
I,
definitely sold products I would never use.
yes, yes.
Not
And
going to
it's
out any names, but
right, right. And, you know, maybe it sounds a little yucky to say, like, well, yeah, I would voice that. But coming from the world that I come from, it's refreshing to be completely disassociated from what it is that you're voicing. I can
yeah,
appreciate that.
I absolutely understand. And that's why, one of the reasons why I'm trying to, you know, do that with this channel, where it's like I'm really actually talking to people who are, like you, who are doing this as a way to make an earnest income, trying to do it right, trying to work through those failures that add up to success, because you can't have any success without failing a couple of times in a couple of
Right.
different ways, but working through those, pushing forward in spite of that, and maybe even pushed on by that, but trying to do it right. And so that's my answer, is trying to help people hear those stories, hear those voices, literally. That's why the AnyVoices. So it's not just me preaching, here's what worked for me. Well,
Right.
when I got started in 1996, literally when I got my first paid voiceover, things were a little different than they are now.
Oh, sure.
And they're constantly changing. And the reality is that there's always great fresh ideas in there. Sure, there are some things that are constant, still having good sound is having good sound, and how we do that has actually gotten a lot easier. So you know that's beneficial. But there's a lot of things out there that are going to hit with people, and whether that's doing a YouTube channel like you, whether it's blogging, whether it's voice acting, whether it's audiobooks like a person that I had on recently, there are lots of roads, just like with your blog, with allthingsphaedra.com. There's lots of roads out there for people to find, and go down that path and just enjoy, and probably find success along the way as well. Like you said, there's an audience for everything out there, in the world of voiceover, just like there is on YouTube. And you never know which one is going to be your big one.
And I have to add something too. We're talking about being over 40, and I actually just hit the over 50 mark. And I feel like age matters in a couple ways. Number one, with voice acting, is how you sound, not how you look, which is really refreshing.
Hmm.
Too bad we're doing video here. Um, but
Outing ourselves, yeah.
yes, yes, we just outed ourselves. But you know, I think the other thing, I'm in quite a few voiceover communities, and there are a lot of people that are struggling, they're impatient. And I think if you, and you've obviously been in this a long time, someone like me that has been in the working world for a long time, but is relatively new to voiceover, I think having age and wisdom and experience and maybe even patience allows you to go into it with a, you know what, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm
Hmm.
going to do, 100 auditions. And if two come through, great. I'm not even going to think about the other 98. And I think that there is some advantage to being older and just saying like, I'm going to do my best and that's all I can do. And if it works for
Yes.
me, great. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to move on until I find someone that I'm the right voice for.
Yep. Yeah. I'm okay being me. And yeah, when I was, when I was younger, I tried to be all things to all people. And I, have realized over the years that's not true to me, first of
Right.
all, and I can't be that, so I can't do that well and be successful at it. I'm just going to drive myself crazy, tire myself out. And even when I set up my first home studio, and that was in 2006, and I had that same exact attitude. I was like, everything's riding on this. If I don't do this right, everything's going to go down the tubes. And the reality is that I was working in broadcasting. I had access to studios that I could have done all of my work in. I didn't even really need to, buy my own equipment. It was just convenient for me to, because it was, a 10-minute ride to the closest studio that I had access to. And I didn't want to be there late at night. I just wanted to be at home. And so, um, looking back, I made a lot of foolish choices and rushed into things that I don't do anymore.
With age comes wisdom.
You hope. You
For
hope.
most, for
For
most.
most
Yeah.
of us, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Fader, it was really great talking with you. I don't want to, abuse your time, and so I thank you very much for joining me and in being flexible in us getting together. It was great to
Yes.
do this, and I will definitely put all the links to all of your properties out there online for people to find, and just get those numbers up on other stuff than just the Bronco video. So,
Yes, please. Well, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
all right, Fader. Well, until next time, we'll do one more take.